welcome to my fourth now video of my KSP tutorials. This will be the second part to my third tutorial on how to get to the moon. So let's get started. If you guys watched my previous video, you'll see that actually, for some really weird reason, whenever I loaded the ship onto the launch pad, it always just used to like destroy itself. And I couldn't really explain why. I tried it quite a few times. So then I sort of tried rebuilding it completely from scratch, so just deleting the new one and building this new one, and it actually works. This one, as you can see now, this one actually loads up. So I don't really know why it wasn't working before. It must have just been a one-off glitch, I presume, but I've pretty much kept this one exactly the same. I've moved the solar panels, changed some of the struts, but overall it's exactly the same design. So I actually just want to check the staging before we launch. So that's there, that's there, that's there, and that's fine. Right, yep, okay, we're ready to go. So what we're going to do is we are going to press T for SAS and hold the left shift key to throttle up, and then press the spacebar in 3, 2, 1. Need to do full throttle actually, because these rockets provide so much thrust. You really don't actually need, there's no point in wasting that much fuel. So actually just going to do half fuel for the time being. Actually, might just do a little bit. Well, on a ascent with a powered rocket, you want to try and keep your speed between 150 and 200 meters per second in the first 10,000 meters, just to save as much fuel as possible. Because you are going to need this extra fuel later on. Actually, it's gone over that. Slow down a little bit, because otherwise we'll just be wasting fuel. Right, so we're going to lose these solid fuel boosters. As you can see, we only need to be at quarter thrust, and we're still maintaining this speed. So once we get to 10,000 meters, we're going to turn 90 degrees. And then now at this point, you want to full throttle, just to gain as much thrust as possible. I don't know why these rockets are wobbling. I really have no idea. I think it's because of these small fuel tanks, so I might actually need to change them for a different fuel tank. These are going to run out of fuel pretty quickly. Get rid of them, and left with this singular one. Now we're already at 1,000 meters per second, so if we look out on the map key, we're already pretty much in an orbit. So this lifting stage was like very easily get this into space. It was probably actually a bit more. So we're actually just going to get it to 80,000. Oops, and press the X key to stop the rocket from firing. And we will gently make our way into space. Now, if you watched my first tutorial on getting into orbit, you shouldn't really need much explanation about what I'm doing at the minute, but I'm just going to talk you guys through it again, just just because I'm nice. But these these getting into orbits should start becoming routine. Because you'll be doing this on every single flight that you do with a rocket, or even with a space plane, to be honest. So, you need to make sure that you've got this down to a T. So once we get close to the apoapsis, we need to remember to start burning prograde to increase our orbit, and we're going to do that by lining ourselves up using WAS and D keys to the prograde marker, which is the circular marker with the 3 lines coming out left, right, east, west, and northwards. And then we want to hold the left shift key to increase the throttle to start burning. So as you can see, this starts, the orbit starts increasing, and if we want to, we need to keep the apoapsis basically on our shuttle. We can do this by burning either side of the prograde marker to move it left and right. Now, as you can see, burning it more into the blue pushes it forwards, and burning in the orange pushes it back towards us. So we need to sort of try and keep it a little bit in front's fine, but as close to as you can. And we basically need to keep burning to about 2,200 meters per second, in which that we'll have a complete orbit. So there we are. Press X to cut the throttle, and we now have an orbit of periapsis of 83,000 meters, and that's 90 meters. So that's a perfectly fine orbit. And we still have loads of fuel left over in this Rockomax Jumbo tank. Oh, and some left in this X200 tank as well. So we've got loads of fuel to get to the moon, as well as this fuel tank and all the fuel left in here. So we'll have absolutely no problem getting it to the moon. Now, as you can see, this is the moon. I've got a few things already around the moon. I've got a probe and a moon base, but that doesn't really matter. So we're actually going to click on the moon and click Set as Target. And this is going to highlight the moon around Kerbin. So as you can see, it's in a pretty circular orbit. The moon's one of the easiest things to encounter, because you don't really have to plan. You can just sort of do trial and error. So we're going to grab our orbit. We're going to click on any random place on the orbit, because it doesn't really matter at this point. Click Add Maneuver. Now this is going to make what's called a maneuver node. Now, a maneuver node is there to basically allow you to plan, to try different things with your orbit, and it'll show you in a dotted line what's going to happen. So if I pull this mark out here, which is the prograde marker, what that'll do is that will basically, as if I got to here, I would start burning prograde, so I would increase the radius of my orbit. So as you can see, this is the blue one is my actual orbit, and this dotted line is my sort of potential, well, what would happen if I was to burn at that point orbit. So if I keep increasing the delta V of my burn, which is what you're going to do, you're going to get it so it outstretches all the way to intercept the moon's orbit, which is here. So as we can see, this little mark here says closest approach. So when I'm here, the moon will be there, which sucks. That's not what we want. We want it to be there when we're here. So what we're going to do is we're going to click on the maneuver mode and drag it round. And we're going to keep dragging it all the way around. And at this point, actually, I'm just going to extend it out a little bit more. Here we are. Right, so now we're on the other side. We can see that when we're here, the moon is there. So what we want to do is we want to bring it further to the left. Oh no, sorry, further to the right. And there we are. Once we move it further to the right, we can see here, this is now a you can see you start having sort of two parts to your orbit. So we've got the moon encounter, which is exactly what we want, and then this little bit of orbit here is when we're going to be in the moon's sort of gravitational pull. And then here it's saying we're going to escape, and that's because we'll be travelling at escape velocity for the moon's gravitational pull. So once we've completed our burn out of Kerbin's orbit, we're going to come around here, enter the moon's orbit, and then we need to slow down. So then you need to start burning retrograde. But I'll show you all this in due time. So what we're going to do is we can see that our estimated burn time is 21 seconds for this Rockomax mainsail engine. But due to the amount of fuel it's got, I don't know if it'll be able to burn for that full 21 seconds. So we need to basically account for the time it's going to take for me to decouple this node, ignite this engine, and burn the rest off that, and basically get the rest of that delta V. So I'm going to start burning around about 30 seconds, just to give me that extra leeway time, because we want the estimated burn to be on 0. We want this to finish by the time we hit that node. If you sort of lost me on the way, you'll see what I do. You'll know what I mean when I start doing it, because I'll just talk you through it. So what I'm going to do is run out of electricity, apparently. Really? I just ran out of electricity. This is really embarrassing. Oh my god, you must be joking. Right, hang on. I'm just going to burn a little bit, just to gain a little bit of electricity, so I can turn this thing. Because otherwise, I'm not going to have enough. I'm not going to have any electrical charge to do anything. Hopefully, this isn't altering my orbit too much. Yeah, it is. Oh, keep moving, keep moving, keep moving. There we are. Right. Now one of my solar panels is actually facing. Oh, this is so embarrassing. Hang on. This is why you should really build a better rocket. Okay, so if we... Right, that should start generating electricity now. Wow, this is embarrassing. Right. Okay. Well, we've got a bit of time. We have a bit of time, so it's not that much of an issue. We just need to make sure that we are on this. You see this blue marker here? This is where you need to burn once we've when we get hit that maneuver nodes. So as long as we're on there, that's not a problem. So we are facing the right way, and even though we're facing in the wrong direction to accelerate out of a Kerbin's orbit, our node's in 14 minutes, and in that time we will have completely gone around the planet and ended up on the other side, which will then be the direction that we're facing. So it may not make much sense at the minute, but it will. Now, if I just move us towards that way a little bit. Right. Okay, so I'm now at this point. So we're going to fast forward time. So I mean, we're going all the way around the other side. Right, and we're going to stop speeding up time when we hit to about... Slow down time. Right, okay. So now we've hit 33, 32, 31. I'm going to start burning. We're burning on this blue marker, and you can see the delta V meters coming down. So this is how much delta V we have left to go. Actually, I think we will be able to do it in the amount of time. So I'm actually just going to slow this burn down, just so then the node time can catch up to the estimated burn, because we'll have enough fuel in here. So as we get close, we're going to look on the map, and as you can see, our orbit is actually changing. So we need to be watching this nav ball and be watching this delta V meter. I'm going to increase it slightly. X. Right. Once you press X, once you see this orange orbit, you need to press X as soon as you can, because that means that's going to be your orbit after you've encountered the moon. So that means you have a moon encounter. So there we are. We're on our way to the moon, which is pretty cool. And we still have a substantial amount of fuel in this in this middle stage, so we're going to keep hold of this actually. Even though it's a pain to lug about, we're going to keep this because we might as well utilize as much fuel as we can, just then if I make any mistakes we can correct them as best possible. So considering we've gone past this maneuver node now, we're just going to click on it and then press the X button. As you can see now, our blue orbit transits off into the moon's sort of gets in the moon's way, and then we get captured on the way past. So I'm going to press F5 to quick save, and that actually really does help, because if I make a big mistake I can just hold F9 and that will solve that problem. We're just going past the Kerbal Kerbal space station actually. Might as well. I'll show you guys. Let's have a look. KSP space station. Switch to. Just in case any of you guys wanted to see what a space station looked like, this is it. It's a bit laggy because there's a lot of moving parts, but yeah, this is my Kerbal space station, and this is just basically sort of a little research center. It's got a lander, a moving stage so the whole place can move, and a docking ports on either side for small and large vessels, and it also acts as a refueler as well because it has these liquid fuel tanks here. Just a little project I've been doing, and I still haven't finished it yet. I've still got I've still got a port there at the bottom that I need to add on, and then I can even add more on from there as well. So yeah, it's just a little project of mine. So anyway, let's go back to the moon lander, because this is a tutorial. Okay, so now we're in the moon lander. We are going to time warp, because otherwise it's going to take us a very long time to get anywhere. So as you can see, we're now leaving Kerbin's orbit and heading for the moon. So we're going to speed it up even more, just to get there in time. Now you want to make sure when you encounter a planet that you're not speeding up time, because Kerbal Space Program isn't a perfect game. It still has its glitches, and whenever you're time warping is a time that you're going to get glitches. So you want to basically make sure that you're only time warped slightly when you encounter another planet, like times 10. And there we are. So now we are in the moon's orbit. So what we want to do now is we need to slow ourselves down. And we can do this in a number of two ways. We can, if we want to just have a direct course for the moon, we can do that by just burning now, and our periapsis will decrease, and we will end up basically hitting the planet. And that means that is good, but it's also bad in another sense, because it means we'll head down onto the moon a lot faster. So what you can do instead is burn at the periapsis and create an orbit around the moon, and then slowly make your way down onto it. But for the amount of fuel that we have, actually, I'm feeling confident enough that we can just basically head for a crash course, if you like. So I'm going to turn this thing around, which takes an awful amount of electricity and time, till we reach the retrograde marker, which, if you remember from my first tutorial, it shows where your velocity is the opposite of where your velocity is going. So if we're on this marker and we turn on the engines, we're going to slow down as quickly as possible. So I'm just going to aim my engines that way, and then we're going to hold the left shift key to ignite the engines. As you can see, we're slowing down really quickly. Our orbit's coming in now. Right, I'm just going to press X to slow that down now, because we're coming in here. I'm going to do it ever so slightly. 90,000, 80,000, and you want to basically see until the blue line, there we are, enters onto the moon's surface. So as you can see now from where we are, it's going to spin round, and we're going to enter actually into one of its main craters, which is pretty cool. So actually I'm going to get rid of this big heavy lifting stage now, because it only has a tiny bit of fuel left. So I'm going to press spacebar to get rid of that section. And I'm actually just going to ignite this engine and just burn a little bit, just to get clear of it, because we don't want to knock anything. So now we have the LVT-45, and this is our upper stage. So this is what we're going to use to slow down once we enter onto the moon. So we're going to speed up. Right, so as we get closer to the moon, we're going to slow down time a little bit. And as we can see, we're actually at the moon now. That's pretty cool. That is pretty cool. Some of the planets on this game look really great, so once we, in a few more tutorials, we'll actually travel to the planets, and you can see Eve is one of them that just looks absolutely sick, especially when the sun rises over the planet. So we'll have to see that in future videos. So now, as you can see, we are making our way towards the planet. Right, I'm going to slow down now. Slow down time and just watch. So as you can see, we are now heading towards the moon. And actually, this craft is now becoming a lot easier to maneuver because it's a lot less heavier. So we're going to spin it round towards the retrograde marker, because we need to slow down, because at the minute we're travelling at nearly 700 meters per second, which is really quick. And that's what makes the moon so hard to land on, is because, well, not so hard, but harder than Minimus to land on, because you have to slow yourself down so much, because you need to bring enough fuel to be able to do that. Luckily for us, we have. And that's why this little suicide drop is going to work, because we've got enough fuel. But this isn't the best way to do it, but it's, considering we had the fuel to do it, we might as well, because it's quicker. So when we get to here, doesn't really matter where you burn, because at the end of the day, I'm over the moon now, so I can actually just start going downwards right now. So I'm going to hold the left shift key to slow ourselves down, and thankfully, even though this rocket is little, it's carrying very little weight, so in actual fact, we're slowing down really quickly. And if we look at our orbital trajectory, this line is now coming closer and closer to us, and we're basically going to dip down a lot faster. Because at the minute we're basically slowing down our horizontal velocity rather than our vertical. So if we keep burning, we want to get to about 100 meters per second. So we still want to be able to get down there quickly, because otherwise it's going to take us forever. So there we are, we've hit 100 meters per second, and as you can see now, we're going to head down in a much more vertical trajectory. So I'm just going to speed up time a little bit faster, and I'm going to carry on burning again. in the retrograde, just to slow ourselves down even further. And if we, even though this says 15,000 meters, if you remember in my first tutorial, we want to press the C key to look inside the cockpit and look for a more accurate reading on this radar altitude meter. And this basically tells us how high we are in relation to the ground, not at sea level. Obviously the moon doesn't have a sea level, but it does have some sort of oh, that's a cool thumbnail. That is cool. No, I won't take a picture of that. I'll take one when we get home, when we actually land. So yes, we want to keep an eye on this radar altitude, because unfortunately it only reads up to 3,000 meters, so we can't see where we are before we hit 3,000 meters. But we're okay for the minute, because we're not traveling too quickly, and we have plenty of fuel and stopping power in order to slow us down. So we're going to try and basically literally land with this stage before getting rid of it and landing with these legs, because we don't want to use, we want to use as little as this fuel as possible, because this fuel is what's going to get us back to Kerbal, which you can't really see anymore. So if I look on here, we're not there yet. We're still falling down. Right, now I'm going to burn just sort of a 25% thrust, just to slow us down gradually. Ah, yes, right. We're actually very close to the surface, so I'm going to slow us down massively. We're talking to virtually stopping. So we're only at 5 meters per second now, because if you look on our radar altitude, we're only at 750 meters above the surface. So I'm going to slow down even more, just to make the full use out of this rocket, and then we're going to get rid of this stage. I'm going to ignite this rocket, pressing space again to activate that staging, and then we're going to press the G key twice, because it never seems to work first time, to extend our landing legs. And then we're just going to thrust at about 25, we'll go for 25%, which will slow us down gradually, and hopefully that'll blow up, so we don't have to worry about it. There we are, that's just blew up on the moon's surface. So we're gonna press X to cut our thrust, just because we're still travelling down, and then we're going to burn again at 25%. So you want a slow, gradual descent onto the moon. You don't really want to hit the moon with anything over 12 meters per second, because then you've got a risk of damaging the legs. So we're going to 25% burn, increase it slowly just before you hit the ground, and then bam. We've landed on the moon! Yeah! Oh, this always feels good. No matter how many times I've done it, it still feels great. So there we are. We have landed on the moon with plenty of fuel left to get us home. So now, there is only a few things left to do to get Kerbal on the moon. Now, one thing you've got to really make sure you don't do when using a lander, this has got quite a wide centre of gravity, so we should be okay with this lander, but sometimes, if you've got a lander that's quite tall, it can really cause problems because you can accidentally knock it over, because there's very little gravity, so in actual fact, it's very low weight. So we're going to press EVA, and then we are going to press R. Actually, we're going to press the spacebar to let go, and then press R to use the jetpacks. And now you use the jetpacks relatively like you would in most other things. You press the left shift key to go up, left control to go down, and then WAS and D to move left, forwards, left and right. And it just helps you with steering well on the moon, and also it's loads of fun. But don't use it too much, because the EVA pack does have fuel, so you don't really want to run out. So now guys, we are going to do what every person does when they land, and we're going to plant a flag. So if you right click on Kerbal and click plant flag, because we're going to use this for the thumbnail. There we are. Moon landing. Oh, we need to pose for the picture. Say cheese. And there we are, guys. We've successfully landed on the moon. Now, in my third part, we're going to be getting home safely from the moon. Thanks for watching, guys. Please comment, rate, subscribe, and cheers.